The security alarm chimed softly as the elevator doors slid open on the top executive floor. Every conversation stopped. Assistants looked up from their laptops. Board members waiting outside the conference room frowned in confusion. A man wearing faded work boots, worn blue jeans, and a paint-stained jacket slowly stepped out of the private elevator reserved exclusively for the CEO and board directors. He froze the moment he realized something was wrong. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I think I pressed the wrong button." No one answered. Security guards immediately began walking toward him. One receptionist whispered, "How did he even get access to that elevator?" The man instinctively stepped backward. "My mistake," he said politely. "I'll leave." Before anyone could escort him away, the large conference room doors opened. Out walked Isabella Morgan, founder and CEO of Morgan Aerospace. At only 42, she had built one of the world's fastest-growing aviation companies and was known for making billion-dollar decisions without hesitation. She looked toward the unexpected visitor. Then something impossible happened. The confident billionaire suddenly stopped walking. The color drained from her face. She stared at the stranger as though she'd seen a ghost. Her briefcase slipped from her hand and hit the polished marble floor. The hallway fell completely silent. Her voice trembled. It can't be." The man looked equally confused. "I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to come up here." But Isabella wasn't listening. She slowly walked closer, unable to take her eyes off his face. "You?" She swallowed. "What's your name?" The man hesitated. "Daniel Carter." She closed her eyes for a brief moment. Then whispered almost to herself, "Daniel." Everyone around them exchanged puzzled looks. The CEO never forgot names. But she had never reacted like this to anyone. Daniel shifted awkwardly. "I'm here to repair an air conditioning unit on the 23rd floor." The receptionist downstairs said elevator C. "I guess I misunderstood." One of the security officers stepped forward. "Mr. Carter, we'll escort you downstairs." Before he could move, Isabella unexpectedly raised her hand. "No." Everyone froze. "He stays." The board members looked at one another in disbelief. The company's largest acquisition meeting was scheduled to begin in less than 5 minutes. International investors had already arrived. Yet the CEO ignored all of them. Instead, she continued studying Daniel's face. There was something hauntingly familiar. The same calm eyes. The same gentle expression. Even the small scar near his left eyebrow. Finally, she asked one question. "Did you grow up in Willow Creek?" Daniel looked surprised. "I did. Until I was about 12. Isabella took a slow breath. "And your father's name?" "Was Thomas Carter." Daniel nodded. "Yes." Now the billionaire's eyes filled with emotion. The hallway remained completely silent. No one understood why one of the world's most powerful businesswomen seemed unable to stop looking at an ordinary maintenance worker. Daniel himself had no idea why she was asking such personal questions. "I'm sorry," he said kindly. "Have we met before?" Isabella smiled sadly. "You don't remember me?" He searched her face. "No." She looked toward the floor for a moment. "I didn't think you would." Then she quietly dismissed everyone else. "Please postpone the board meeting." One executive protested. "The investors have flown in from 3 countries. They can wait." No one had ever heard Isabella say those words. Within minutes, the executive floor emptied. Only Daniel, Isabella, and 2 assistants remained. She invited him into her office. The room overlooked the entire city through floor-to-ceiling windows. Daniel had never seen an office like it. He remained standing. "I really should repair that air conditioner." "It can wait," Isabella replied softly. She opened an old wooden drawer in her desk. From inside, she carefully removed a faded photograph. The edges had yellowed with age. She handed it to Daniel. He stared at the picture. It showed two children standing beside an old oak tree. One was a smiling little boy. The other was a frightened young girl holding a broken bicycle. Daniel frowned. I remember this tree. Then he looked closer. His eyes widened. The boy. That's me. He slowly looked up at Isabella. She smiled through tears. And the little girl was me. Daniel felt the room begin to spin. Fragments of childhood memories flooded back. A rainy afternoon. A frightened girl sitting alone after being bullied. A lost necklace. A promise made beneath an old oak tree. He had completely forgotten. She never had. Neither of them realized that one small act of kindness from 30 years earlier had quietly shaped two very different lives, and that the truth Isabella was about to reveal would change Daniel's future forever. Daniel sat quietly across from Isabella, still holding the faded photograph with trembling hands. For several long moments, neither of them spoke. He searched his memory again. The old oak tree. The broken bicycle. A little girl crying alone. Then it came back. I remember, he whispered. I was walking home from school. Isabella smiled gently through tears. You found me behind the old library. Daniel nodded slowly. You were crying. I had fallen off my bicycle. She shook her head. No. I was crying because everyone at school laughed at me. Daniel looked surprised. I don't remember that. You wouldn't. You only saw a little girl who needed help. Isabella looked out the office window before continuing. My father had just lost his business. We lost our house. My classmates found out. They said we were poor. They said we'd never amount to anything. She laughed softly. I believed them. Daniel looked at the photograph again. I remember helping fix your bicycle. You did much more than that. She opened another drawer and carefully removed a small silver bracelet. It was old and slightly scratched. You gave me this. Daniel frowned. No. I couldn't have. You did. You found it on the sidewalk. I told you it belonged to you. Daniel slowly smiled. My mother always said if something isn't yours, return it. Isabella nodded. It wasn't mine. It was yours. Daniel blinked in confusion. I know. But you insisted I keep it. She carefully held the bracelet in her hand. You said, whenever you're scared, remember that bad days don't last forever. Daniel laughed quietly. I actually said that. You did. She smiled warmly. I've carried those words my entire life. Daniel sat speechless. He had completely forgotten that afternoon. For him, it had been one small act of kindness. For Isabella, it had become the turning point of her childhood. My father overheard what you said. He never forgot either. When business finally recovered, he repeated those words every time life became difficult. She paused. When he passed away, he asked me to find the little boy who reminded him that hope can come from anyone. Daniel lowered his eyes. I never imagined. You couldn't have. She smiled. You were just being kind. A gentle knock interrupted them. The board chairman entered cautiously. Ms. Morgan. The investors are still waiting. She nodded. They can wait another 10 minutes. The chairman noticed Daniel. He assumed the maintenance issue had become urgent. Instead, Isabella surprised him. I'd like you to meet the person responsible for this company existing. The chairman looked confused. Daniel immediately protested. No. I only fixed bicycles. Everyone laughed. Isabella shook her head. You fixed something much more important. You fixed my courage. That afternoon, Isabella invited Daniel and his 8-year-old daughter Lily to stay for lunch. Lily had been quietly reading in the employee lounge while waiting for her father to finish repairing the air conditioning system. When she entered the executive dining room, she looked around nervously. "Daddy. Are we allowed in here?" Daniel smiled. "I don't know." Isabella knelt beside her. "From now on, you're always welcome." Lily smiled shyly. During lunch, Isabella learned about Daniel's life. After his wife passed away from illness, he worked multiple maintenance jobs to raise Lily alone. He never complained. He simply focused on giving his daughter a happy childhood. When Isabella asked why he never pursued a higher-paying engineering career despite his qualifications, Daniel shrugged. "I needed flexible hours. Lily needed her dad more than I needed a bigger paycheck." Those words stayed with everyone at the table. A week later, Isabella visited one of Daniel's maintenance sites without announcing herself. She watched from a distance. He greeted every tenant politely. He patiently explained repairs to elderly residents. He even fixed a broken toy belonging to a little boy without charging anything. She smiled. He hadn't changed. Success or struggle had never altered his character. The following Monday, Isabella made a surprising announcement during the company's annual leadership conference. She introduced a new initiative called the Oak Tree Foundation. Its purpose was simple: to provide scholarships, emergency assistance, and career opportunities for single parents working in skilled trades. At the end of her speech, she invited one special guest onto the stage. Daniel looked completely uncomfortable as thousands of employees applauded. He whispered, "I don't belong here." Isabella smiled. "You've belonged here for 30 years. She handed him a small framed copy of the childhood photograph. Beneath it was engraved a single sentence: "Never underestimate the kindness of someone who expects nothing in return." The audience rose for a standing ovation. Months later, Daniel accepted a new role at Morgan Aerospace, not as an executive, but as director of the company's technical apprenticeship program. He insisted on spending part of every week working alongside trainees in the workshop. "I don't want an office all day. I'd rather teach." Under his leadership, hundreds of young mechanics received training, mentorship, and opportunities they never thought possible. Years later, a reporter asked Isabella during an interview, "What was the best investment you ever made?" She smiled. "It wasn't an airplane. It wasn't a company. It was believing in the man who once believed in a frightened little girl." Meanwhile, Lily asked her father one evening, "Dad." "Yes. Did you know that helping someone that day would change your life?" Daniel looked at the framed photograph hanging on their living room wall. He smiled. "No. And that's exactly the point. The best kindness is never given because we expect something back. It's given because someone needs it." People remembered the story of the poor single father who accidentally took the wrong elevator and shocked a billionaire CEO. But those who knew their whole story understood that it wasn't the elevator that changed everything. It was a forgotten act of compassion from a little boy, returned decades later by a grateful woman who never forgot the stranger who gave her hope when she needed it most.